Welcome back, Rebel Canners. I'm sitting here on the sofa. I've got a copy of the cookbook, and I have some things I want to share out of that. Somebody was asking the other day in another group, how many jars do you need? And that's one basic canning thing. It's like, okay, I want to buy all my jars. How many do I need? And right now people are like, there's a jar shortage and I can't buy any jars, you know, and if you could just afford to do it and run out and buy them, my magic number is for a family of 4, I would start out with 1,000 jars. That seems huge, but then remember, you don't have to do it all at once. You know, get a case here, get a case there of jars, and pretty soon you'll have built up your revolving pantry full of jars. So, gonna kind of go through this. I'll insert some slides as I do to kind of stop, make you think, and give you the numbers. But here in the book, when I wrote it out, and I like the way I wrote it out, so I'm just gonna read it kind of right back to you. When you figure out how much you need to figure out, like, okay, I want to eat a fruit once a day. And serve it at lunch and dinner. So I'm going to assume I'm talking in quarts unless I say otherwise, because that gives you a chance to serve it at both lunch and dinner. You know, and you don't have to serve it the same day. You can serve it one day and then finish it the next day. You know, you can rotate. Fruits in season, you're going to eat fresh. So figure 1 per day, except when you're eating them in season. That's going to be about 300 quarts. Same with vegetables. 1 per day, except when they're in season. So you want to figure about 300 quarts. Asparagus is one of those exceptions. I can that in 1.5 cans because it's taller and I like how it fits in the jar and better and looks better. So when I can asparagus, I'm going to can that in the 1.5 pints. Juices, you want to figure that you want about 3 per week. That's going to be about 150 quarts. Jam and jellies, if you figure about 1 jar a week, that's going to be in pints or half pints. So 52. I do not go through that much. I'm at the point now where I have a huge pantry full of jellies and jams. I do 1 different variety every year, and then we mix and match and pull out of the pantry and rotate them. But I'm not doing a bunch of canning of jams and jelly anymore. Then on the main dishes, we have, if you figure out that you're eating, and this is going to depend if you're vegan or vegetarian or, you know, going meatless, you're not going to need these. So actually I'll do the vegan part first. I figure I can and keep on hand ahead 75 pints of beans. Most of my beans I store as dried, but that just saves my shelf space. And then I try to keep about 75 in my pantry that are pre-canned and cooked, just because it saves shelf space if you keep them dry, and it's not going to save that much time. I can pressure cook them and have them ready very quickly. Now, if you are a meat eater, you figure that you're going to have that 1 to 2 times a week. That's 100 quarts that you would want to can in a variety of meats. And then possibly in addition to that, if you do fish, you're going to want your fish to be 1 to 2 per week for about 100 pints. And usually for us, we would do pints in the fish, not the quarts. So if you were going to can one fruit and one vegetable a day, have some juice, fish, and meat each week, you're already talking about 1,050 canning jars. And that doesn't cover any of the ready-made things like soups. It's just your basic needs, just a basic list. Now, for our family, we eat a quart of pickles every day if I'd let them. They'd eat a quart of applesauce every day if I let them. And so things like that, we have to factor in that we need a lot more of. We eat a lot of pickled products, a lot of fermented foods. So we use our canning jars also for fermenting. So we're going to have a lot of that, sauerkraut and stuff like that. I also store my stuff, like my spices and my flours and stuff, in canning jars. So I have a lot of extra canning jars for those kind of things. This also doesn't take into things like I like pies at Thanksgiving. And so I'm going to have some apple pie filling canned. I'm going to have some cherry pie filling canned. So things like that are not included in this list. So as you get going, you'll build it more. But you don't have to do it all tomorrow. You can find a great sale, or apples is a bumper crop of apples and they are really cheap. Do your stuff up. I try to have a 2-year supply of the things that are bountiful. So it's a bumper crop of strawberries this year. So I am doing up a lot of strawberry products this year. I probably won't can strawberries next year. I'll just use out of my pantry. It just seems that that's how things cycle, where you have a bumper crop one year and then you can't get it the next year. So I kind of work towards more of having a 2-year supply. That's where I'm at in this stage of it. But when you're first starting, just do one thing and have it. And then a little bit more of something else and have it. And slowly you'll build your pantry up so you have a working pantry where you have a huge variety of things and you're not canning everything every year. Here's just an example. I was given a huge amount of potatoes. I will never can potatoes ever again. I have so many I have to use up that I actually had to buy canning jars because I ran out of canning jars because I filled all of my canning jars with potatoes. Now nobody in my family will eat potatoes because they are so sick of them. So I will never ever have to can potatoes again. I'm done. They're in my pantry. They're on the shelf. I'm using them up as fast as I can. But I'm at this point in my life, I will probably never can plain potatoes ever again. I might make, can them in other things, but I'm never going to can just a can of plain old potatoes. So also take into account, do I really need 300 jars of potatoes on my shelf that are just plain? Well, when the potatoes are free, yes, I do. Now when people offer me potatoes, I'm like, no, thanks, but no thanks. I'm good. Give it to somebody who needs it. So, just, kind of store what you're going to use. That is my second best advice on this. And then also things like tomatoes. I use tomatoes a lot in my cooking. And so I want to have a lot of canned tomatoes, canned stewed tomatoes, tomato sauces, tomato pasta sauce. I want to have a lot of tomatoes on hand. So I can a lot more of those items as well. Remember what you're going to use. All right. Thank you, Rebel Canners. See you with another episode